This video reveals a chilling case that feels like something from a horror movie, yet it's frighteningly true. Close to midnight in Sydney's business district, at one of the city's top schools, the dark corridors of the sports center were filled with police officers responding to a strange safety call. About an hour earlier, a man had phoned 911 from a payphone, giving only the location and warning that someone should discover it before the children did. When officers reached the women's changing rooms, they found a locked door and forced it open. Inside, the injuries they uncovered were far worse than expected, and no one could immediately determine who was behind it. It wasn't her family, her friends, or the students who cared for her. The attacker wasn't a stranger. This was someone she knew, trusted, and had been happily standing beside for weeks, all while secretly carrying out a plan. The school didn't reveal the truth immediately. Parents first received a message at 4:30 a.m. saying that something terrible had occurred. 2 hours later, another message followed, assuring them that no children had been harmed. But that was far from the full story. A massive police investigation quickly focused on St. Andrew's Cathedral School, a 140-year-old private institution in the heart of Sydney. The gym and bathroom facilities were sealed off, with police stationed at the school gates as students, some accompanied by parents, others on their own, continued to enter. Behind the scenes, investigators were already reviewing CCTV footage, piecing together a timeline of movements, messages, and the chilling late-night phone call. During this process, police discovered that a young staff member had vanished while on duty. They soon realized she had never left the school grounds. At around 7 p.m., surveillance cameras recorded her walking into the gym bathroom, appearing cheerful and relaxed. Moments later, a man followed her inside, only to emerge alone and disappear into the night. That young woman was Lily James, a beloved coach admired by everyone. Lily was driven, approachable, and full of life. She studied sports business at the University of Technology in Sydney and spent her evenings coaching swimming and water polo at St. Andrews. She also volunteered with other after-school activities. Even at just 21, she had a strong sense of self-competitive, athletic, and thriving in team environments. She also had a great sense of humor. Friends described her as beautiful and outgoing. The students she coached adored her. Colleagues respected her. And to her family, she was everything. Lily grew up in a seaside suburb south of Sydney, sharing a close bond with her parents, Hemi and Peter, and her younger brother. In high school, Lily was active in both dance and swimming, and her teenage years were the kind many could only wish for. But her beauty wasn't just skin deep. She was dependable, compassionate, and generous. She was looking forward to a weekend getaway and had plans lined up. People relied on her, and she wasn't the kind of person to vanish without telling anyone. That's why alarm bells went off for her parents when she didn't respond to messages that night or return home. Around 10 p.m., her father texted to ask if she needed a ride. Not long after, he received a strange reply from her phone. "Don't call or ask why. Come to school, please." The words didn't sound like her, and when he tried calling, no one picked up. Whoever was using her phone clearly knew what they were doing. That's because it was someone who worked alongside her. Both were young, athletic, and well-liked by the students. Lily coached swimming and water polo while he taught hockey and cricket, often in the afternoons and evenings when after-school activities were busy. His name was Paul, and everyone described him as cheerful, dependable, and great with kids, one of the school's best coaches. By September, he and Lily had started spending more time together. At first, it seemed purely friendly, but soon their colleagues noticed how well they clicked. They laughed together and shared jokes easily. They shared a playful competitiveness, which made their time together enjoyable. Lily wasn't the type to rush into relationships, so the fact that she started seeing someone new showed how much she trusted him. Paul seemed like a great match, successful at his job, athletic, kind, and familiar with the school environment. Her family had already heard about him. They knew Lily was seeing a nice guy named Paul from work, though they hadn't met him yet. Lily, however, appeared genuinely happy, the kind of happiness where you start saying we instead of I. In moments like that, people often lower their guard. Paul would walk her to her car after practices, and his texts came across as sweet and caring. He would wish her good luck before games, and when the relationship ended just 5 weeks later, no one thought much of it. Short relationships happen, and Lily didn't treat the breakup like it was dramatic or messy. She wasn't avoiding him or trying to escape. In her mind, they were still on good terms. They kept texting and continued working together at the school, which made the situation seem normal. That's why Lily never raised any concerns. If you had asked people at St. Andrews who Paul Tyson was, most would have described him as intelligent, articulate, and well-liked. Paul had once been a student at the school and later returned in his early 20s to work as a coach and activity supervisor. The transition was seamless since he already knew the staff, the routines, and how everything operated. He carried himself with confidence and appeared steady and dependable. The school often turned to him for support in organizing activities beyond regular classes. He also projected a sense of reliability. To his friends, he said he was pursuing a master's degree in teaching and was focused on building a future in Australia. He rarely drank, seldom went out, and didn't really date. One of his roommates even described him as so structured in his habits that he came across as almost dull. When Paul began dating Lily, it seemed like an ideal match. She was outgoing and ambitious, while he appeared calm and mature. On the surface, it looked perfect, but that was only the version of himself Paul allowed others to see. Beneath it, he had darker tendencies that would eventually surface. At first, there were no raised voices or threat. Instead, it started with subtle questions. Where are you? Who are you with? When will you be home? In the beginning, it could almost pass as concern, affection, or protective love. He would say things like, I miss you already, or I just want to make sure you're safe. But Lily wasn't naive. She was confident, capable, and independent, and she wasn't someone who needed controlling. When you like someone and believe they're a good person, it's easy to overlook small red flags, especially if they apologize or cover them up with charm. Paul asked Lily to share her location with him on Snapchat, framing it as something fun that many couples did. Lily didn't object since she had nothing to hide and saw no harm in it. But gradually his interest turned into control. He became irritated if she didn't reply to messages right away or if she made plans without including him. He tracked her movements constantly, and whenever she tried to set boundaries, he reacted with confusion, hurt, or anger. To Lily's friends, Paul seemed a little too attached, but not necessarily in a way that felt threatening, at least not yet. He came across as simply intense, someone who fell deeply and quickly. Lily had been honest with him, making it clear she wanted to take things slowly. She enjoyed her independence, but was still kind enough to send casual, "How was your day?" text. Paul, however, began to spiral. He couldn't handle being excluded, losing control, or seeing Lily spend time with other men, especially older ones. To him, moments of rejection weren't just personal. They felt like deliberate insults meant to hurt him. Losing control over the situation or over the image of himself he wanted others to see was unbearable. The tipping point came when Lily went to celebrate her 21st birthday the previous weekend. Lily and her friends were just enjoying a night out, but Paul wasn't invited. Someone else was, a person Lily had previously dated. That evening, Paul had dinner elsewhere with friends, but according to witnesses, he barely ate and spent most of the night glued to his phone. He kept checking Snapchat maps, constantly monitoring Lily's location. By the time she left the party, Paul was already nearby. He drove her home and later picked her up again, but he said almost nothing, only staring at her. By then, something about him had noticeably changed. Lily didn't admit to feeling scared at the time, but she later revealed that Paul made her feel uneasy. It wasn't just possessiveness. It was something harder to define, a quiet tension and mounting pressure. That Monday they spoke in person. Lily explained that she wanted to end their romantic relationship but remain friends so they could continue working together professionally. She tried to be polite, clear, and considerate, and Paul seemed to understand. For a few days, things appeared fine. He maintained a polite demeanor at work, smiled at her on campus, and acted as if nothing had changed. But behind that smile, something was brewing. Paul had carefully cultivated an image of being calm, intelligent, and attractive. And now the person he'd built it for was moving on. Paul couldn't let go. Over the 3 days leading up to the attack, he drove past Lily's street 7 times. She was home, yet he never approached her or knocked on her door. He just sat in his rented white SUV watching. He even took photos of the street with his phone, noting the owners of the cars and recording the information on paper. He was essentially mapping her movements and keeping track of her routines. At school, Paul became unusually quiet, spending excessive hours in the gym after work, which had become like a second home. In the days before the assault, security footage shows him repeatedly entering the restroom area, but he wasn't going there for its intended purpose. Paul's behavior became increasingly odd. He would enter the restroom quickly, practicing opening and closing the doors, timing how long he could stay inside without being noticed. On one occasion, he even placed a yellow cleaning in progress sign outside the disabled bathroom near the changing rooms. After leaving briefly, he returned just 2 minutes later, deliberately looking at the CCTV camera before going back inside. Each time he entered the area, his actions became more calculated, and he carried a hammer hidden in his hoodie. CCTV footage from Lily's last day shows that he had taken the hammer from a roommate's toolbox that very morning. CCTV footage also revealed that Paul had a spare hammer in his car, which he had purchased from a hardware store a few days earlier. At 7:12 p.m., Lily entered the gym bathroom to change for her water polo match, wearing her athletic clothes and appearing cheerful, showing no signs of fear. Then she disappeared behind the bathroom door. 2 minutes later, at 7:14 p.m., Paul followed her inside, still carrying the hammer. That brief window marks the last time anyone saw Lily James alive. What happened behind that door quickly became one of Sydney's most horrifying crime scenes. Though it unfolded in mere seconds, the devastation was irreversible. Paul launched a brutal attack on Lily behind the bathroom door, leaving her with no chance to defend herself. She was struck at least 25 times on the head and neck with a hammer, though forensic experts believe the actual number could have been higher. The injuries were extremely severe. Several bones were completely broken, and cuts on her arms and hands showed she had tried to shield herself. She attempted to fight back, but there were no signs of sexual assault. The attack was entirely about punishment and control. Paul did not flee after the assault. He remained in the restroom for over an hour with her body, possibly to clean up the scene. He may have been lingering and thinking about his next move. At 8:47 p.m., Paul finally exited the bathroom, walked to his rented SUV, and drove across the city to Diamond Bay Reserve, a secluded cliffside location known for its scenic views. Along the way, he discarded one of the hammers in a trash bin. Then, just before midnight, he called 000, the emergency number in Australia, reporting that a body had been found and providing its location. He didn't reveal his name or explain how he knew about the body, and he hung up immediately after leaving the message. A few minutes later, Paul sent a series of alarming texts to Lily's father from her phone. "Don't ask why you call. Pick me up at school right now, please." When Jamie James called back, there was no response, leaving him frightened and confused as he drove to the school, unaware of the horrifying truth awaiting him. Lily wasn't in the parking lot. She was already gone. After making the anonymous 911 call, Paul parked his car near the rocks at Diamond Bay Reserve. He left behind his rucksack, which contained clothes, a toothbrush, and an old phone. Not the phone he normally used. Neither Lily's phone nor Paul's regular phone were ever recovered. Before leaving, Paul paid his roommate 6 months' rent, as if he wanted to settle loose ends and leave no unfinished business. By 11:45 p.m., just 3 minutes after CCTV last recorded him, he had vanished into the darkness at Diamond Bay. The cliffs there are steep, rocky, and over 30 meters high. Lily's body wasn't discovered until the following morning by a group of nearby workers. Rescue crews arrived shortly after 8 a.m., and it took several hours to retrieve the body. By late afternoon, the identity was officially confirmed. The perpetrator was Paul Tyson, the seemingly friendly and dependable coach who had worked with Lily for months and had been beside her just hours earlier. Both of them are now gone. Psychologists described his actions as a textbook example of coercive control. What appeared to be care or affection was actually manipulation and pressure. By the time the true nature of his behavior became evident, it was too late. Lily never saw the full picture. As much of it had been deliberately hidden from her,